Well, hello, ENG for you. It has been 3 weeks since we've had any real communication. And even though you're hearing my voice, it still doesn't quite feel like it should in the classroom. This is going to be an unusual situation for many of you. And I just want you to know that we're trying to work very hard as teachers to make sure that it's meaningful and worthwhile, and that you're not just doing busy work. So, hoping that you jump in and engage just as much as your teachers are really hoping that these activities have that effect on you, that they do want you to engage. So, in thinking about where we were and where we were headed, I thought it would be a great time to start Hamlet. We didn't all have the same novel, so it would have been really difficult to schedule three different novel activities and whatever it was. So I thought we could all start on the same page. A lot of people question why I still do Shakespeare. Is it required in the curriculum? And the answer is no. It's not required in the curriculum. It doesn't say specifically that we must do Shakespeare. It says that we need to do a play, that we need to evaluate a number of ideas, but it doesn't say specifically Shakespeare. So why do I keep doing it? One, I think the level of language is something that is definitely most challenging within Hamlet, but it's because of that language that it causes us to take pause, slow down, and really see what the meaning of these characters and what they're saying. And so I really think Shakespeare has value in terms of looking at the level of language and what they're saying and analyzing literary and poetic devices within the parts of what they're saying. Other reasons why I think Hamlet is the right choice for us is that as I've been studying it over the past 7, 8 years as I've been teaching this course, that I think we can all identify a part of ourselves within Hamlet. Circumstances are very different. He's a prince, I'm not. But he goes through a number of human emotions that I can relate to, that I have experienced in myself. And so this is what we're trying to connect to. I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of the semester, when we were examining the idea of text and analyzing literature as art, is that that's really how I see ourselves. When we look at a painting, when we look at a sculpture, we're trying to connect ourselves within that painting. What have I seen? What emotion is it evoking? And what do I have in connection with that? And I think Hamlet does that as well. And so what I've tried to do is create a few activities just to get us into it so that we can understand. We may not understand the purpose of the play, and we may not understand all of the characters, but we're going to engage with some activities to think about ourselves and to see ourselves in a little bit of Hamlet experience. And I think because of that, no matter when this play was written and no matter what the time frame is or the setting is within this play, that I think there's parts of it that we can identify with. And so once you get into Act 3, that's when this meme that you see on the screen is maybe going to become a little bit funnier. That we can make jokes about it or understand. I was listening to My Chemical Romance with my daughter and heard a reference to Macbeth. No, it wasn't My Chemical Romance. It was Hamilton. She's listening to Broadway music, and so she was listening to Hamilton, and there was definitely allusions to Macbeth in there. And there's a lot of references from Hamlet that as we read through it, you may or may not have heard the key ideas that come out of that play. So what I thought I'd do is just in this not quick video is just go over what the expectation is within classroom. So I want to be very clear in terms of my expectations. I like to read it with students where we stop every couple of lines to say, okay, what's going on? What's happening? What's he saying? How do we know that? And I'm not there to do that with you. I would highly recommend that if you're going to read through, as it states in Activity 5, to read through Act 1, Scene 1, if you want to find an audio copy, by all means, go for it so that you can actually hear the words and stop and listen. If you want to find a copy so that it's in Google Docs so that you can actually highlight and make notes, by all means. Whatever it needs to be for you to engage with the text and to slow down to read the words. The other thing I want to encourage you to think about is that it's not cheating to use No Fear Shakespeare. The tools are out there, and we can definitely use them. I would encourage you to read some of the text and try and piece together, not line by line, but by reading it as a group together and trying to figure out what's the context for this, what is this character saying, and then going to No Fear Shakespeare to try and confirm that. For some of you, that's overwhelming. And if you want to engage with this text because you want to see what the modern text is saying, by all means do that. So use the tools that you have access to. That's the way that we're going to have to operate, and that is okay. I have students all the time who have it side by side, even as we read it through class. So here are the activities that I would like you to think about. First and foremost, I just wanted to point out at the bottom of this that there is a full copy of Hamlet. It's in PDF form, so that if you don't have a copy at home for whatever reason, maybe not a whole lot of you will, I seem to have many copies. Anyway, so if you want to use the PDF copy, then you can have it there. You can actually download that so that you can keep it if you have a computer, that you're able to just keep it instead of referencing the PDF online every single time that you open it up if the internet access is a bit of an issue. Okay, so here's the key thing. I want you, just in this first week, to think about connecting with the character of Hamlet. So this very first one, here's the key thing. The key plot point in this story is that Hamlet is a lot like Lion King. So the idea of the king has died and that the uncle has taken over the kingdom, and Hamlet, the prince, is vehemently opposed to all of this. He is disgusted by his mother's actions and how quickly she was married to his uncle right after his father, the king's death. The father is also named Hamlet, by the way. So there's, a storyline in there that Lion King is loosely based on. What I really want to do this week is connect with Hamlet himself as to what's going on. So he's this guy who is devastated and is grieving at the sudden death of his father. And the kingdom, because of a series of rules, doesn't go to him. It goes to his uncle, who is the next in line. And so he's mad at that. He's mad at his mother for falling in love. And he just seems to be angsty. He just seems to be raging against everybody. And he's very moody, which is the process of grief. But he takes it out in a number of different ways. And so this very first activity, Hamlet as a teenager, is this one right here. And what I want you to do is read through the article, and it's actually got questions at the very end of it, things to think about. What behaviors does Hamlet exhibit in the play as outlined in the article? Sorry about that. And why does it cause readers to think he might be a teenager? What behaviors connect him to being teenager-y per se? And then at the end of the article, those are some pre-thinking questions. At the end of the article, you'll actually find some questions, and these are to connect the idea of Hamlet and what he's going through to yourself. So have you ever experienced a time when what was happening in your life was out of your control and everybody else seemed to have control, but you didn't? Telling yourself to make the best of a situation, or you can't control it and you're just being told, make the best of it. Thinking about motivation. This is going to be an interesting one throughout Hamlet, is the idea of getting motivated to do something that you've been asked to do that you may not like to do. How do you find the motivation to do that? So it's got some questions about motivation and stress and pressure and whether or not you've experienced those. And the other thing that you need to know about Hamlet is that as much as he's moody and emotional and all these other things, he's been tasked to do something that he doesn't think he can do. And so he's an emotional guy, but he's also a thinker. That he gets trapped in his own thoughts, and he almost, as much as he wants to do something, talks himself out of it. in this play, you will find that Hamlet has more soliloquies. There's one term to look up, soliloquy, right? It's not just a monologue, but a soliloquy has a purpose. And he has more of these in this play than most other plays I've ever read for any single character. And it's because he's thinking through all of these things and he's trying to process, not just for himself, but for the audience, what he's thinking about and what he's seeing and feeling. And so this last question is, have you ever got trapped in thinking about a situation and then end up doing nothing about it because all you do is think about it? So these are just some basic things that I want you to think about in terms of Hamlet's character, but also have you ever experienced them yourself? Some of the other activities. So speaking of motivation, the idea of getting motivated, which congratulations if you're logging in, if you're watching this video, because that takes a lot of motivation. I gotta tell you, it's been a whirlwind of emotions trying to get back online. And a lot of students have identified that they're just not motivated because they're motivated for marks when it comes to looking at university, but right now it seems all over the place. And so they're not really motivated to do stuff because it doesn't seem authentic. It doesn't seem real right now. So this next article for activity number 2 is to read through about Hamlet and motivation. And there's questions at the bottom of that. As we get there, the answer to your question that you're thinking right now is no. Right now, I don't want to see those answers. I don't want to see those activities. This week, I'm going to be really looking to see us dabbling and getting situated with operating like this. So all of these activities are really just for yourself. I think what we'll do at the beginning of next week is start talking about these and what we're connecting to seeing in the play so far. All right. Character number 3 or activity number 3 is about a character map. And so I provided one for Kite Runner. Hopefully all of you read that in grade 11. And it's a character map for Kite Runner. And so I want you to do that for Hamlet. So you'll need to look up the list of the characters. And what I want you to include is a character trait, a little bit about who they are, their position, or what they do, as well as their relationships to and from the other characters, and whether or not they have a good relationship, a bad relationship, whatever that might be. Activity number 4 is the idea of revenge and justice. So in this play, Hamlet finds out something, much the same as Simba does in The Lion King, that he needs to then seek revenge. And so there's revenge sayings here, and there's one here. And all you're being asked to do is to go through those, what do those sayings mean, and what's the difference between revenge and justice? Again, just like a reflection question, jot down a couple of ideas. Then for activity number 5, read through Act 1, Scene 1 of Hamlet. I would encourage you to look into further information. You have the world at your fingertips in terms of looking this up. But start reading the play. What's the setting, the tone, the mood of this play? What's the key conflict that is identified? Remember, this is just like a short story, only longer. It's just like a novel, in that the very lead of the play needs to tell you the key parts of it. What's happening? What's going on? What's the problem? And so what can you figure out from the guards that are talking in the very beginning? What is going on? What information is revealed in the first scene that will be important for the play? If you want to read ahead, you can absolutely do that. If you can find a video or a movie copy, I have several. I got Benedict Cumberbatch on the stage. I've got that movie. I've got Mel Gibson. There's another one. What's his last name? Brenna is his last name. There's quite a few editions. There's the Zeffirelli version. If you can find a movie, feel free. Go right ahead. See if there's anything in Netflix or any of the ways that you have. I unfortunately had to buy most of my copies, and because of that, I'm not able to share it. But if you're able to find a copy or download a copy, whatever you need to do, please feel free. The other thing I want to share is look up some summaries. There's a number of ones. I can't recommend this one, but I know that it's pretty funny. It definitely has some